Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Purupakshi says, today is Wednesday, so we are discussing Sugama in English. I don't know whether we should discuss in English. I think it would have been enough if we had spoken in Kannada. But anyway, since we have started in English, there might be somebody who want to hear this in English. So we'll continue. So Purupakshi said, we are answering that question of Purupakshi, who said that Aham Pratyaya Vishaya, being a matter of I notion, being a matter of I notion is the nature of Atma. This is what Purupakshi says. Because you refer to yourself as I, you think of yourself as I, myself. So you have a thought about yourself and you refer to yourself as subject, as I. Okay, not as an object. Excluding the object, you refer to yourself by first person. Therefore, Atma is always a first person, both in thought and also by reference. By thought and also reference. Therefore, that I notion is the very nature of Atma. A self-thought. I notion means a self-thought. There is always a self-notion or a self-thought. I think that is a better. There is always a self-notion or a self-thought. And this self-notion is we are not, self-notion is there not when you are thinking of Atma. Purupakshi is telling. Purupakshi says we have this self-notion not only when we think about Atma, not that we are only think about it a particular time, then alone there is a self-notion. No. Purupakshi says, you always think of yourself, you always entertain a self-notion. Abba. Lot of nice, Abba. What am I to do? You always think of, oh my God. We are like in the market. Probably bus stand also will be silent compared to this. Purupakshi says, you always think of yourself. Means you have a self-thought all the time with the Atma. See, two things. It's not that sometime you think of yourself, a thought of yourself you have about the Atma, and sometimes you don't have. It's not like that. All the time you have a self-thought. There is no time you are free from a self-notion. Okay? There is no time you are free from self-notion. Because self-notion or I notion, a notion of individuality. A self-notion is the very nature of Atma. Therefore, you don't entertain this self-notion sometime and drop sometime. No. You can never be free from self-notion. Self-notion or a self-thought is continuously there and it is an essential part of Atma. It is the essential nature of Atma. What is essential nature of Atma? Self-notion is the essential nature of Atma. This is what Purupakshi says. Okay? So, nahi nacha niyamena ahamta nugamat tadharmyam atmana iti shankyam sushuptadau ananvayadahamaha. For this Siddhanti told, see, this self-notion is not an essential nature of Atma. You find in your life, you exist without a self-notion. You have an experience, that is your deep sleep. In Sushupti, you exist without a self-notion. No notion for that matter, and also no subject notion. No notion of subjecthood. Therefore, yastu, then another, the same Dvaitins say, no, tatrapi ahamo astitvam avat atishthate tam anubhava eva parakaroti. They say, even in deep sleep, this I notion or self notion exists. For this, Swamiji replies, our very Anubhava refutes this argument of you. This idea of you is disproven by our own experience. You say there is an I notion or a self notion during deep sleep. You watch deep sleep properly. You are not looking at deep sleep. You are looking at it wrongly. But the deep sleep itself is free from any notion. In fact, deep sleep itself means free from any notion. How beautiful it is. Deep sleep itself means free from any notion whatsoever. No thought at all. When you are free from all thoughts, that state is called deep sleep. Therefore, tam prati nakinchit vaktavyam. Therefore, those who say that the I notion or self notion continues in deep sleep, they are ignoring the very Anubhava. If had they paid attention to Anubhava properly, they would not have said this. That means they are under a misunderstanding of the deep sleep. It is a misunderstanding about deep sleep. It is a thought about deep sleep. Deep sleep itself is without any thought. Neither good thought nor bad thought. Okay? Neither small thought nor a big thought. Neither concrete thought nor a subtle thought. No thought whatsoever is what deep sleep is. To this, Purvapakshi says, Sukamahama swapsamiti paramarshabalat tatra tat sattvam anumimanastu. Purvapakshi says, in deep sleep, there is thought. A thought of self-thought is there. How? He says, after coming into waking, you always carry. He says, whenever you are in waking, you have a thought of this world, me and the world. One thought is you and the world, there is one thought. Another thought is there is another world, which is, you call it a dream, means it is a falsified world. We have two thoughts all the time. One is thought of the world. Second is a thought of falsified world. Third is deep sleep. When you have a thought of the world, that is waking. Waking is thought of the world. World and me. It means subject, object, thought of duality. The thought of duality. Dream is a thought of falsified world. Dream means you always have a thought of a world which is falsified. It's not true. You have understood that it is a false. One thought you always have, that is the world, it is real. Thought of real world. Another is thought of false world, falsified world. Then another is thought of no world. Okay? Thought of no world. But it is a thought all the time. Okay? There is no world, but yet there is a thought. So, not only a thought of no world, an experience of no world. He goes to say that. Not only a thought of no world, but a thought of an experience of no world. See how he says. A thought of experience of no world. So this is what they say. Therefore, Purvapakshi says, aham pratyaya, that sukhamaham asvapsam, I slept comfortably, I slept soundly, deeply, sukhamaham asvapsam, I slept happily. So this thought you have when you are waking. When during waking, you have these three thoughts all the time with you. One is a thought of a real world, a thought of a falsified world, a thought of I slept happily, comfortably. You have a thought. Taking these three thoughts, you call them as a three states. Okay? One is a waking state, another is a dream state, another is deep sleep. But not when you have these three thoughts, but Purvapakshi says, this thought about the deep sleep is referring to deep sleep. It is recalling the deep sleep. It is remembering the deep sleep. Therefore, deep sleep was an experience. Now I have a recollection of the deep sleep. That means there is a connection between the present recollection and a past experience. Deep sleep you experience for a while and come out of it, and then you start recalling it. This is what Purvapakshi says. So therefore, from this memory based upon the memory of deep sleep, based upon the present memory about the deep sleep, we infer that there was a notion of I. There was a self-notion. Okay. Sukhamaham apsvapsam iti paramarsha balat tatra sattvam anumimanastu. So the self-notion or I notion existed during my experience of deep sleep. During my deep sleep experience, I had how? Because in the waking state, when I recall that I have slept well, that means the I, notion of I is there. I slept comfortably well. So from this memory, you have to infer that there was an I notion during. To this, why I should reply? Swamiji himself replies. I leave it to Swamiji. I'll read out. I explain when he says, when Swamiji says. So I don't explain on my behalf. I explain on Swamiji's words alone. Now for this, Swamiji answers, Yenappa, what is this? Pindamutsrujya karam lady iti abhanaka vishayo bhavet. You are telling from the memory that I slept well, from this memory the present thought you have during waking state, from this thought you are asking us to infer the presence of I thought or this presence of individuality in deep sleep. This your statement is like Pinda Mutsrujya Karam Lady, means you are given one gulab jamun, or something. Gulab jamun agali or dry gulab jamun. Don't talk of the pakam, without pakam. Okay? Pakam means without that syrup, sugar syrup. Syrup means that paka. So, two types of gulab jamun are there. One is you put a syrup in it. Another is without syrup also. Some people make it as a dry gulab jamun. And that dry gulab jamun we put in your hands. You are supposed to eat it. Then what somebody advises is, hey, put it down. The gulab jamun you have in your hand, pindam utsrujja. The pindam you utsrujja, you drop it and lick your hand. Pindam utsrujja karam lady. Lady andre English nalli, Sanskritadalli lady andre lick it. ಪಿಂಡಮ್ means some ball. Ball ki pindam ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Pindam means any sweet ball or any ball, eatable ball. Pindam utsrujya. Utsrujya means dropping the gulab jamun or something on the ground. You are given to eat. Somebody suggests, hey, don't do that. What should I do? Drop that gulab jamun, which is a dry. Why I said dry? Once you drop it, nothing sticks. If it were pakam, syrup, some pakam would stick to your hand. If you lick, it would be useful. But the example I am changing. Okay? There is nothing sticks to your hand because it's a dry gulab jamun without syrup. So, dry gulab jamun put in your hands, and he is advising you, put it on the ground and lick the hand. What will you get? What taste you will get? Nothing you will get. So he says, you are advising me as if you are advising me like this. Drop the sweet in your hand and lick your normal hand, bare hand, without any taste. Idi enappa? What is that you are advising me? In deep sleep, you have a thought of I slept well based upon the waking memory. How can the waking memory? We are asking you to talk about deep sleep. I am telling you, in deep sleep there is no I thought. You say, drop the deep sleep. He says, set aside the deep sleep, take the thought in the waking state and infer that. It is like, drop the dry gulab jamun in your hand, from your hand, and lick the bare hand, tasteless hand. Andre, the example, see, in India we have got lot of I don't know what you call this kind of things we have in all Indian languages. Pindam utsrujya karam lady, drop the gulab jamun and lick your bare hand. We are asking you, we are talking about the presence of self-thought during deep sleep. And you say, yes, I'll show you. There is a self-thought during deep sleep. Come on, show me. He says, in waking state, you have a thought about deep sleep, that you have something. We are asking you, tell what do you feel? It is something like, I'll change an example, illustration. I'm asking you, what do you think? What do you think about this pen? Come on, tell me your opinion. Somebody else tells that, now you see, he thinks that pen is like this. Somebody else answers. He says, I asked him to answer. And you are answering, you are telling your opinion. If you tell your opinion, then how can that be his opinion? I am asking his opinion. He has to state his opinion. When he has to state directly, why somebody else is speaking? I am asking about the experience of deep sleep. Do you find a self-thought during deep sleep? And the waker answers, you see, I had a thought in deep sleep that I slept well. Waker, you shut up. I didn't ask you. I am asked the sleeping person. I am asking the deep sleep. What is the experience? Let him tell. He doesn't tell, and somebody tells on his behalf. Is a representative. Waking can't be representative of deep sleep. Okay? Waking can't be representative of deep sleep. So, pindam utsrujya karam ledi iti abhanaka vishayo bhavet. There is a saying in Sanskrit, you are telling like that. Because nahi, why you are comparing it with this saying, a prevalent saying in Sanskrit? Because nahi sushuptau ananubhutam suptottitena paramrashtum shakyam. I am asking you, show me directly in deep sleep. Deep sleep is an experience where you are free from I thought or a self-thought. Atma exists, you exist without any thought about yourself. You have no self-thought, you have no thought of subject. That's what we are telling. Atma is independent, free from self-thought. Self-thought is a mind. That mind exists only in waking and dream. Deep sleep is an experience without any thought. When I say Atma is free from self-notion or I-notion, that means I-notion is not an essential nature of Atma. Atma can stand, Atma can exist without I-notion. That's what our deep sleep experience says. When I am pointing out directly the experience of deep sleep, and you say, in my waking state, I have a thought about deep sleep. See, waking state can see anything only through mind, because waking person has a mind all the time. Waking person, waking jiva has a mind. Everything he experiences through mind. What is beyond mind also, mind alone thinks. Okay? If you talk to the waking person, you tell him beyond mind, he tries to imagine. I told you it is beyond mind. If you imagine, that can't be called beyond mind. Okay? Once I say it is beyond mind, you try to imagine what is beyond mind. If you imagine it is not beyond mind, it has become within mind. That's why waking person is always in association with the mind. He can't be without mind. Waking jiva, waking person is always in touch with a thought. I notion is all the time there in waking state. Therefore, with this person, whenever he thinks of anything, he has to think through a thought. Therefore, the waking entertains a thought about deep sleep, that I did not know anything, that I was happy. See, I was happy. This thought that I was happy during deep sleep is imposed by the waking mind, not the deep sleep. Look at the deep sleep directly. Why do you require third person when you can see directly yourself? If there is a blind man, somebody else can show him for him. There is an accompanying person, he will see and explain to him. But a person who has eyes, he can see directly for himself. Why do you need a third person's explanation? Deep sleep is directly your experience. Do you have an I thought? See directly in the deep sleep, there is no I thought, that's over. Why do you need so much of explanation from the waker standpoint, dreamer standpoint, third person, fourth person, fifth person, 10th person, when you are directly here? So, nahi sushuptau ananubhutam. Swamiji puts in simply few words. Sushupti, there is no anubhava of I thought. I thought, self-thought doesn't exist in deep sleep. Suptottitena. How can you recall when you didn't have I thought in deep sleep? Did you have I thought in deep sleep? When you did not have self-thought or I notion in deep sleep, how can you recall it when you are in waking? If you feel that there is a thought, then that is a false thought. You are going through the thought which you entertain in waking and imposing looking at deep sleep through the waking memory about deep sleep. Memory means a memory like thought. A memory like thought you have about deep sleep in the waking, and you are going by that thought. Through that thought you are looking into deep sleep, and say that you are imposing it, carrying this waking thought into deep sleep, imposing it on deep sleep, and say that I slept well. Did you have a thought I slept well? During deep sleep, did you have a thought that, oh, I am sleeping so happily, Abba, after 2 days I am getting a very comfortable sleep. Earlier there was disturbance, there was loudspeaker, there was something. Now there is without any sound, I am able to get a very good sleep. Abba, I am so happy. Do you ever feel like that during deep sleep? Oh, I am sleeping so happily. I slept well is a thought, is an interpretation, is an explanation given by the waking mind about the deep sleep. But the deep sleep itself never experienced any thought. And neither I am happy nor unhappy, he has no thought. Anything you talk about deep sleep is only after coming into waking, not directly about deep sleep. Deep sleep itself is without thought. This is an open, everybody's obvious experience. Why do you deny that? Why do you set aside and talk through waking? Nahi sushuptau ananubhutam. What is not experienced in deep sleep? What is not experienced? Self-notion or I-notion. There is no self-notion or I-notion in deep sleep. Suptothitena. By a waking person, how can he remember? How can he recall? Nahi asti sushupte ahamanubhavaha. There is no I thought in deep sleep. Okay. Nacha kasyachit kadachit abhut bhavishyati va. Nobody on the earth has ever had a thought of self-notion, a thought of self, a self-thought. Okay. Nobody ever had self-thought in deep sleep. Nacha kasyachit kadachit abhut. Nobody ever had such a thought, nor will ever have. Na asit na bhavishyati. Nava kalpaitum shakyam. Nor even to imagine that there was an I thought, self-thought during deep sleep. It is ridiculous. You learn to look at deep sleep properly. Okay? Therefore, nahi sushupte ahamanubhavaha nacha kasyachit kadachit abhut nar bhavishyati nar kalpaitum shakyam. This is one sentence of Swamiji, beautiful. Yathahi nakinchid avedishamiti paramarshabalat kinchit shabdavachyaha kaschana padartaha tad jnanam tat pratyogika abhavascha itye tat sarvam sushupta babhuviti nanumiyate kenachit amudhena evam sukamaham apsvapsam paramarshabalenapi nasushupte ahamanubhavo anumiyate. Little long sentence. Okay, we'll explain one by one. Yathahi nakinchid avedisham. People say we have two thoughts about deep sleep. This is what I see some scholars, some people explaining like this. Regarding deep sleep, we have two thoughts. One is, I did not know anything. Another is, I slept well. I had a very happy experience. Okay, I had an experience of I am happy. I had an experience of I am happy, and also I don't know anything. Did you have when you were in deep sleep? Don't say what you thought of deep sleep after coming into waking. Okay? Not that. After coming into waking, you may think anything. That's different. But did you have any experience directly in deep sleep? That I don't know anything now. Did you have a thought? Now I am sleeping so happily. Did you have a thought? While in deep sleep, I am sleeping happily. This thought you didn't have. I did not know anything. I don't know anything now. You don't have it. Do you have such a thought? I don't know. Neither I notion nor don't know notion. Neither of them. It is just no notion at all. No thought of anything. Therefore, it is just a thoughtless nirvikalpa. Sushupti is nirvikalpa. So, this small sushupti I am explaining so much because there is an explanation among a section of Vedantins we call Ekadesha. They try to say like this only, that there is a thought that this is what I am telling. There are two notions. This. Some people say there is a thought in deep sleep. Some say there is an I notion. The self-thought is there. Some people go to an extent that there are two thoughts you experience during deep sleep. They go on imagining a lot of things, putting lot of things from the waking state. Therefore, Swamiji says, Nahi nakinchid avedishamiti paramarsha balat, based upon the waking thought about deep sleep. Based upon the waking thought about deep sleep, such as I did not know anything. Did not know, he is using past tense. I did not know anything. So based upon this reference, this memory-like thought you have about deep sleep, Based upon this thought, you can't say that kinchit shabdavachaha kaschana padartaha. Nothing, when you say, I did not know anything, means I knew nothing. By the word nothing, can you imagine what is that nothing? Can you say that there is something nothing? Nothing means there is something which I did not know. Means supposing there are 5 objects in the room. Do you know any of these things? No, I don't know any of them. Any of them. There are 10 vastu. Oh, there may be 10 or 20 or 40 or 50, I don't know. But I can assure you, I don't know any of them. When you say any of them, I don't know, can you imagine that there is something to be called as any? You are referring to as any. I did not know any of them. Any of them means you imagine that there is something. There are some 5 or 10 or 20. Therefore, you can say that I don't know any of them, any one of them. Any one. When you say any one, I don't know any one of them. Any one means by anyone, by the word, because by that expression anyone, do you say that there was something? There were few things, but you did not know any one of them. You may not know one, you may not know 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or all of them. You may not know all of them, or you may not know at least any one of them also, I don't know. That means, do you assume that there were certain things at least? There were certain things, therefore, but you did not know any one of them. To say any one of them, oh, you imply that there are few things, at least more than one. Do you imagine that there were few things and you did not know any one of them? Okay. There were a few things. Okay. When you say, I did not know anything, okay, I did not know anything. 3 things. Anything means, were you aware that there was something but you did not know? It is something like you go to your room and then come out. They say, hey, who are they? I don't know. There are some people, but I don't know. There are some people, but I don't know how many of them. But there are some people. Who are they? I don't know. But there are some people. That means, can you say there are some people, but I don't know who they are or how many they are? But there are some people, but I don't know anybody. Can you say that? In deep sleep, there were few things, but I don't know any one of them, or I don't know how many are there. Can you say like that? From your memory, the so-called memory. In fact, it is not a true memory. Memory like. So a reference, better say a reference. A reference means a thought about deep sleep. From that thought about deep sleep you have in the waking. Based upon this thought, can you say that there were few things and I don't know how many and what are they, but there were few things. Can you say that there were few things? And you know something is there, definitely something is there. I don't know what is it, but there is something. There are a few things. What are they? I cannot tell. I don't know. But there are definitely something. When nothing is there, how can you say, I don't know? You go to the room and there is totally, the room is empty. Tell me, who are there? I don't know who are there. Can you say that? Can you say that I don't know who are there? When there is nobody, how can you say who? When you say I don't know anybody, that means there are, I don't know anything, that means there are few things. So, do you say there were few things? And also you know that there were few things, but don't know who are they, how many are they? And you had a knowledge of them, that there were few things. And etat pratiyogika abhavascha ityetat. And there were few things and you did not know. You are negating the knowledge of them. Negation means your negation of them. There were few things and you know that there were few things, but you don't know details of them. That means you are negating their detailed knowledge. Their clear knowledge you are negating, but there is something. Can you imagine these three things? Swamiji is putting these things, that there is something and you know them, but you don't know their details. How many are they? What are they? They don't know. But there is something, this much is certain. Do you have this kind of knowledge about deep sleep? Then why do you say, from this thought that I did not know anything, why do you start imagining that in deep sleep there was a self notion, a notion of ice? That means a notion of I. People say there is an I notion in deep sleep. And I did not know anything. Two things they say. I notion is there, and I did not know anything other than myself, but I was also happy. That means there are three thoughts. A thought of myself, existing alone, and I know that there is nothing other. It is something like when you sit you go to a forest or somewhere there, or why forest, or you go to some place where you alone were there. And after coming here, you tell them, yes, I was there, I alone was there, there is nobody else. Oh, are you sure? Yes, I was there, and there is nobody else other than me. And I was sitting comfortably. Like that, do you say that you alone existed? Were you conscious that you existed? And were you also conscious that there is nobody other than you? Yes, I can be sure there is nobody other than me. I alone was, this much is certain. I alone was, there is nobody else, and I was sitting comfortably, happily. Do you have these three thoughts? Though your waking mind is interpreting deep sleep as if having these three experiences, these three thoughts, but you look at directly. Don't go by the waking memory about deep sleep. Leave that thought. Directly look at the deep sleep. Do you mean to say that you had these three thoughts? Three aspects of one thought. Okay, whatever you say. Three thoughts are three aspects of one thought during deep sleep, because of which you have a memory of it in your waking state. See, a memory is possible only when there is a previous experience. But can you say that there is a previous experience? That's why this is a memory of it. You have a memory like thought, but actual experience is nothing. Actual experience doesn't conform to your so-called memory in the waking state. The so-called memory is a totally different from what I directly experienced. Deep sleep is your direct experience. Why do you go through memory? Deep sleep is a direct experience. But direct experience, look at directly. Don't look at direct experience from somebody's reference. Look at deep sleep as a direct experience. Therefore, Swamiji says, Kaschana padartaha tad jnanam tat pratyogika abhavascha ittetat sarvam. These three sushuptava bhuviti nanumiyate kenachit amudhena. No sane person can imagine that these three things were there. There were certain things that I knew that there were certain things, but I did not know anybody clearly. How many are there? What are they exactly? I didn't know any clearly. Something possibly, just a glimpse alone, something possibly, a click, that's all. There is something. A something, and you know that there is something, but you don't know the details. Did you have these three thoughts? And I alone was there. Fourth thought. You can go endlessly on this like this, any number of thoughts. Okay, therefore, evam, you can't say that from your statement that I did not know anything, you can't imagine all these things. Similarly, Sukamahama apsapsam, from your reference to deep sleep, a reference made through the waking state, based upon this reference, you can't imagine the presence of I slept happily, this experiencer and experience. An experiencer, that I am sleeping happily, and happiness is an experience, and I am an experiencer of happiness. Can you say I existed there? I thought existed there? The thought of I notion existed there, experiencing happiness. Can you say that? Even that doesn't work. Evam sukam swapsamiti paramarsha balenapi nasushupte aham anubhavo anumiyate. Okay. Paramarsha. Then he says, then what about the reference to about deep sleep in the waking? the reference to deep sleep in the waking. See, reference is one way. The actual experience of deep sleep is another way. You may refer according to the person who refers, you may describe it little more. But the thing itself is a bare simple. While describing, you use your own language, and the listener and speaker's mind, listener's mind, accordingly you explain. But the thing by itself is barely simple. He says, Paramarshe ahamullekhastu. In this reference to deep sleep, I did not know. I slept happily. This I thought is there. You are adding. You are attaching the I thought with it. I did not know. I slept happily. This I in these two references, you are attaching, you are including I thought. This I thought which you are including pertains to waking state, not deep sleep. Note it. Watch it. This I did not know anything. I slept well. This I is only a waking notion. The self-thought or I notion pertains to waking state. So this waking I notion is including himself in the deep sleep. See, that is the problem. It is something like, Ali Hogi, after going there, he said, somebody asked him, who are they? He says, no, there is nobody. And somebody told, hey, why do you say there is nobody? Why do you say there is nobody? Aren't you there? Why do you say there is nobody? Oh, yes, I was there. Similarly here, Paramarshe ahamullekhastu, the reference to I during deep sleep, Jagrad Vyavahare Atmanaha Niyamena Aham Pratyayalambanatvenaiva Shakya Paramarshatva Nibandhanaha Iti Yatkinchide Tat. In this Paramarsha, in this reference about deep sleep, that I did not know or I slept well, in these things, the I thought is a Jagrad Vyavahare Atmano Niyamena Aham Pratya. Because in waking, you always have a self-thought, and this self-thought is always continues in all your references. In all your thoughts, in all your references, this I thought always is present. Therefore, Niyamena Aham Pratyayalambanatvenaiva Shakya Paramarshatva Nibandhanaha Iti Yatkinchide Tat. Therefore, it is a waking thought alone that is attached to your reference about deep sleep. Therefore, Yetena Nakinchida Vedishamitya Nirvachaniyam Paramrishyate iti vadanto Navina Vedantinopi Parasta Veditavyaha Ataha Sushuptyadav Nasti Ahamanubhavaha Ityeva Samyak. Therefore, in deep sleep, there is no self-thought, there is no I notion. There is no self-thought, there is no I notion in deep sleep. This alone is right. Ultimately, this alone is right. Okay, tasmadapi natma swabhavataha eva ahamartaha. So what is ultimate conclusion? Therefore, I notion or a self-thought is not an essential nature of Atma. Atma stands without self-notion. Kintu aham pratyaya vivekenaiva tathatvena pratiyate. But if you feel that there is always I notion attached with Atma, that is due to Adhyasa. Adhyasa means you have not yet distinguished it. By adding this I notion to the Atma, you are talking. Kintu aham pratyaya vivekenaiva tathatvena pratiyate iti siddham. Okay? So here he is referring to Vyakhyanakaras also. They say there is an anirvachaniyam bhavajnanam. I think regarding this bhavajnanam, I think we have discussed before and we may say it later. So those people say that there is a positive substance called bhava vidya, positive substance in deep sleep. So even their statement also goes wrong, is proven to be wrong if you directly take the sushupti into consideration. Directly consider the sushupti, even their explanation also goes wrong. Okay, I think this much we stop. In the Purva Pakshis, one more argument. In Aham Brahmasmi, there is an Aham word. How can you say Aham is not Atma? How do you understand Aham Brahmasmi? That we'll tell later. Okay. How do we say Aham Brahmasmi? Second point. Sushupti, one point we referred. Aham Brahmasmi is the third point. Then the Bhagavan Sri Krishna. 2 points are there. We'll discuss later. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.